It's time for MacBreak Weekly. Andy, Renee, and Lori are here, and we have, yes, a new MacBook Air, a new MacBook Pro, and it's goodbye to two of the MacBook line. It's all coming up next on MacBreak Weekly.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 669, recorded Tuesday, July 9th, 2019. Good news, everyone. MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans, who make the home buying process work for you. Their award-winning client service and support will help you every step of the way. Get started online today at rocketmortgage.com/MacBreak. And by ZipRecruiter. Hiring is challenging, but there's one place you can go where hiring is simple and smart. That place is ZipRecruiter, where growing businesses connect to qualified candidates. Try it free at ZipRecruiter.com/MacBreak. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show where we cover the latest news from Apple. And we've got the team. Lori Gill is here from iMore. She's managing editor, Appaholic. One last time in her grandmother's attic. I don't know where you are.
My best friend would be so mad at you.
What is that photo on over your left shoulder?
That absolutely gorgeous velvet painting of Dolly Parton.
Okay, that's why I thought it was Grandma's attic. I got to tell you that was the giveaway right there. No, just tell your friend she's got excellent taste.
She really does.
Yeah. Thank you, Lori, for being here, and belated happy birthday yesterday was Lori's.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
21st birthday.
Yes.
She's ready to drink. Also with us, Andy Anatko from location number 3.
Yeah, it's as though the forces of evil were conspiring against me to make sure that my voice would be silenced during this show, because my home internet was sketchy. The library, or the local library internet was out. Went to the second most local library, that internet was out, and finally was like, okay, there's a Starbucks within walking distance of the failed second library. Either I'm going to do this from a Starbucks, or I'm just going to enjoy a cool frosty beverage on this 85-degree New England day. I'm glad I'm doing a podcast and having a nice frosty beverage on this.
It's just lucky that
New England day.
Starbucks decided to spend a little extra money to have their own private internet, and we're glad to be riding
Thank you. Again, from our partners at Google Starbucks. It's Google Starbucks, yes. So I don't care what information that Google is getting from me on this. Thank you for letting me have some sort of internet here. So listeners, I just want you to know this is how much I love you, and this is how much I look forward to MacBreak every single week. That even when Moses would have just abandoned his people in the desert if Moses had been through what I was through today. But I pressured on.
Well, if you look up above you, there's a loon balloon floating right above you, giving you internet connectivity. The only one in all of Massachusetts.
That was going to be the next thing to try.
There's a loon balloon, I think, that's been up there for more than a year now, and they're starting to use it. I think in is it West Africa somewhere? They're using these for the first time. The funny thing, nearby Providence is one of only 2 cities that Verizon has actual 5G networking actually working. So I could have, had I anticipated failure earlier, just said I'm going to take this sample phone that the data charts I do not have to pay for. I'm going to do some extended testing in Federal Hill. Wow.
No.
Yeah, my mom is in Cranston, which is nearby. That's probably just far enough to not get 5G, but man, it's actually only in a couple of specific neighborhoods in Providence. Yeah,
yes,
of course.
Near
Brown.
You are right. You're Brown. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, this is it. This is the P496, a loon balloon that just spent 7 months in the air. It was launched in Puerto Rico, traveled 180,000 kilometers, circled the globe, spent 140 days testing flight algorithms off South America. This was the plan. I think Google has abandoned it, but this was the plan for internet via balloon, of all things. Also with us, Renee Ritchie from iMore and the Vector podcast. Bonjour, Renee.
I can't
Bonjour, Leo. Andy can't ethically say this, but on his behalf, if you're enjoying his contributions to the show today, please buy a Pixel. Please. Please buy a Pixel.
Please buy a Pixel. They need your money. Actually, you guys, Lori and Renee, were up early this morning. Was it, you said 5:30 Pacific time? Apple put out a press release.
News?
There's news.
Is there actual MacBreak news?
Well, and actually I was, reading over my morning coffee this story, and I thought, I really want to ask these guys if this is news or not. Apple announced part of its back-to-school special, a new MacBook Air, MBA, that True Tone display. It seems to be scant on new features. True Tone display is one, and maybe 8th generation Intel processors, and a very, very good price, $1099, $999 if you're a college kid. And they took the MacBook Escape, the last MacBook Pro with a normal keyboard, and replaced it with a new one with, I presume, also 8th generation processors, a lower price, and a touch bar. Is there anything? So these are very minimal design changes, yes?
Oh, and they murdered the 12-inch MacBook.
Oh, did they announce that?
The news.
Oh, no.
The news is that there's no longer a MacBook.
Oh, that's sad. The
MacBook No. Yeah.
Oh, I'm really sad to hear that.
Yeah, because that was a very sporty design. It was doing things that the MacBook Air wasn't doing. But I guess now that they actually have a future for the MacBook Air that involves losing the USB ports and having a real display, okay, I guess the writing was on the wall. But it would have been really cool to see what they could have done with a MacBook Nothing name, as this is always going to be the ridiculously thin. We are willing to sacrifice to make this as thin and iPad-like as possible, but to run Mac software on it, that would have been a really great product.
Yeah, I thought for a while maybe the MacBook Nothing would have been an ARM-based, the first ARM-based.
Yeah, like I said, they canceled it last time and then brought it back in 2015 with this all-new design. Right. So canceling it now kind of opens up that spot and that name for a next-generation computer.
So I read the press release. It wasn't exactly front and center on the press release that they're killing the MacBook. How do you know they're killing the MacBook?
I got to ask a bunch of questions earlier.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's also gone from the website. You can no longer order it.
Did they explicitly say, though, we will no longer make the MacBook?
Yes, it has been discontinued.
Okay. Is that comparable?
I mean, it's like it's been discontinued, but they never comment on whether it'll be coming back in the future, sort of thing.
Oh, okay. So it is comparable to the last time. It could be back.
Yeah. They were never making another display, and then now we have a mother of all displays.
Right. Buy Fuji's displays. Oh, no, never mind. So tell us about, first of all, I don't mind so much because I replaced my MacBook, which was really pretty sluggish, with a MacBook Air, and I've been very happy with the 2019 or 2018 MacBook Air. What are we seeing in the new MacBook Air?
The thing that's really cool about both of these things, well, I mean, I guess it depends. This is, a lot of people were hoping that this would be the new keyboard debut, especially because Ming-Chi Kuo was teasing that, but this is not that. So if you're waiting on that, you got to wait just a little while longer. But what they're doing here is they're really pushing the specs on the high end. Like the high end has all the latest silicon, Coffee Lake refresh, but they're not updating as aggressively the lower end specs. What they're doing instead is dropping the price, because everyone remembers the MacBook Air got conflated with a $999 Mac. It never launched with that. It launched, I think, $1,700 for the first one and $1,300 for the second one. But the second one went down until it hit $999. This one launched at $11 or $12.99. I'm blanking on the exact price, but now they've pushed it down to $10.99 and $9.99 if you're on education. So instead of just ramping up the specs on it, they did a pretty good update. I think it's way more efficient than it used to be, and it has a better display than it used to have. But they pushed the price down now to $10.99. And the MacBook Pro that's replacing the Escape, they added a bunch of features to it. It depends on whether you actually care about those features or not. But it's updated to 8th generation Coffee Lake. Not the Coffee Lake refresh that the high end got, but still 8th generation Coffee Lake. And it has the touch bar, it has Touch ID, it has a T2 security chip, and they kept the price on that the same. And also, as much as I love the 12-inch MacBook, it is now super clear, the product line. You basically get a MacBook Air, and then if you care about performance, you start paying $200 extra, and then as much performance as you care about paying. And it's a very easy choice between those two.
Do you think there'll be some sadness, Andy, with the loss of the MacBook Pro Escape? Because you got a touch bar now, no matter what.
I think so, because there are a lot of people who are buying it. It was nice to at least have the option of having an actual function key row and an escape key row, and now you just don't. Apple is just throwing you off the cliff and saying you either learn how to use this parachute, which involves the touch bar, or you plummet and die, or which is the equivalent of switching to Windows. So I'm very, very sorry to see that go.
Touch bar and turn it into the you can actually enable the escape key. The function key format on the touch bar.
Yeah, but it's still a touch bar. It's not quite the same.
Yeah.
So there's no haptics yet.
I think it's coders. Like if you use Vim, you use the escape key a lot. And not having a physical escape key, you can remap it to the caps lock. I think that's what some people do, but it's weird. And so
not just that, but it's weird that the touch bar is not quite. It's not the touch surface doesn't extend to the full width of the mechanical keyboard, so you have to kind of get your fingers used to the idea of the escape key is not at the extreme upper left. It is now at the top row, but not quite to the left. Yeah, and you still run into the problems of sometimes hitting a touch button when you didn't mean to hit a touch button. You meant to hit the delete key or something like that. So okay, it's very Apple, where they definitely believe in the touch bar. They see no reason to have two different lines of computers with and without, and they know that the reason we're not going to move forward with the touch bar until everybody who has a MacBook is going to anticipate that they're going to have a touch bar. Every developer who develops software for the MacBook is going to anticipate they're going to be developing for a MacBook with a touch bar. But I still wish that they would give Apple customers a choice in the matter. But again, that's the least Apple thing that Apple could have done.
Yeah, I
thought
the
it
Mac.
was interesting that they switched gears to kind of force everyone into the touch bar. I was really excited about it in 2016 when it first came out, but then it kind of to the general public sort of seemed like this niche thing, or this sort of like almost silly add-on that most people don't use. So I actually in my mind saw Apple sort of deciding that touch bar was kind of a failed experiment. We'll go back to the way we used to do it, but we will have Touch ID. And it is interesting to me that they've doubled down on the touch bar, even though sort of the general consensus is nobody really is that excited about the touch bar. I'm sure there's a lot of people that have found joy in using it, but it's not something that becomes a replacement for just your standard use of a keyboard. It's not something that people are saying, oh, you gotta have a touch bar. So it's weird that they went this route.
Yeah, it's kind of the opposite of 3D Touch. The great thing about 3D Touch is that if you are looking for excitement, adventure, and faster ways of doing things, 3D Touch is there for you to discover these extra sort of user interface things. But if you're not that adventurous, it will not get in your way. It will not confuse you in any way. You can pretend that it doesn't exist. Whereas the touch bar, you just got to deal with it.
It's there.
And I really did think from the beginning that this was not a well thought out idea. When I got my review unit, and my first experience with a touch bar was I'm typing, and I'm seeing like auto complete words appearing in the touch bar, and I'm not joking. I had no audience here. I was not trying to amuse myself. I literally had to take my hands off the keyboard and reflect on the fact that whoever designed the touch bar thought that the way to use it is that, wow, I just typed the letter T. Instead of typing HE with my fingers that are already on the keyboard, I'm going to take my hand off the keyboard and touch this button instead to auto-complete it. Yeah, I can't think about how long a word would have to be before it would be shorter and simpler and faster for me to take my hands off the physical keyboard and find and aim an autocomplete word on the touch bar. That's what made me think that they have no idea what this is for. This is just something that there was a mandate to put a touch bar there and then find a reason for it. I still think it's one of the most disappointing features that Apple has ever rolled out. I think it's kind of okay now that there are third-party apps that let you do things that are actually useful with it.
Yeah, better touch tool, and there's now an app that lets you put the dock on the touch bar, which I guess makes kind of sense, but no. it's
so conspiracy theory. Apple is getting all the current generation MacBook Pros on the touch bar so that when they announce the new next generation 16-inch MacBook, that has whatever comes next. And then you sort of differentiate the old ones from the new one. Again.
Especially if that new one has the new keyboard, a new scissor key, which is the rumor from Ming-Chi Kuo. God, I just between the keyboard and the touch bar, I will not buy another MacBook. Period. Fortunately, I got the MacBook Air the last year, and I don't need to buy another MacBook. But it's just very disappointing. I think.
Oh, you'll like the 16-inch, Leo.
I'm hoping. Have you seen it?
No, but I keep hearing about it.
I almost got him, folks. I almost did. You see how casually I just say, "Oh yeah, really? Have you seen it?" So
it's right, but no. Damn it.
So the rumor is when? September?
The rumor was initially September, although now some people have been saying 2020. But those are the sorts of things that when they haven't pre-announced them, they can just push them out when they're actually ready. And if it's not the September event, it's the October event. If it's not the October event, it's the March event.
See, now I'm thinking Ming-Chi Kuo got it wrong because the rumor that they were going to the Scissor Switch keyboard or the Swizzer Stitch keyboard was that it would be in the 2019 MacBook Air. Well, clearly that's wrong because unless I don't know, has anybody seen this new MacBook Air? Maybe wouldn't that be something if they didn't even mention it? One. Like it's
there could be one in September, but I think but I think almost everyone else who heard that rumor besides him heard the 16-inch MacBook Pro. I don't think anybody else heard the MacBook Air.
Yeah, they mentioned the 2020 MacBook Pro, or Ming-Chi Kuo mentions that. His source on this is a company that makes the scissor keys who says, yeah, we got to deal with Apple. So maybe his source isn't specific enough to say, it's going to be for this machine or that machine. I would love to see them abandon the touch bar and put a scissor key keyboard back in. The story
was weird, though, because he said the MacBook Air, and then he said a refreshed MacBook Pro next year. But the refresh didn't seem to sound like the new design one, which even he's spoken about previously. And that mean that the new design was coming out, and then they would go to the new keyboard on the new design next year after putting it out with the current. It sounded very complicated.
The new design is the so-called 16-inch.
Yeah. Which would be weird to ship with the butterfly keyboard if you've got a new. And it was Greg Koenig, who does a lot of industrial design work. He was actually impressed that they were getting it out this fast. He said it must take about 2.5 years to spin up a new keyboard, which means that they realized about 2.5 years ago that they're going to have to do this. And it's been, keys to the wall until they managed to get this out.
Yeah, I was kind of worried that Apple was going to continue to double down on the butterfly keyboard, saying that no, this is perfect. We just need to convince people this is perfect. Yes, we expected we're going to have to fine tune it, but this is really just people who want to see a bad story where there's nothing but a brilliant story. And so it's nice to see. I'm hoping this rumor is true because I'm hoping that Apple doesn't have to, tear its shirt on the stage and say, forgive us, for we have sinned. They just have to give us a workable keyboard. Because Leo, I'm absolutely with you. I cannot buy a new MacBook if it has that butterfly keyboard. I just can't.
Kind of breaks my heart. I like Mac OS a lot, but I can't give Apple any more money for that keyboard. I'm sorry, I just won't. It's interesting. So they've introduced two new laptops, but they killed 2 laptops at the same time. So it's a net zero sum game. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Renee.
Although you're arguing, no, I was just going to say you guys can just tape the Bluetooth keyboard on top of the case. I just fixed it.
Yeah, that's it. That's perfect.
But you are getting more value for your dollar. Like what you paid for a MacBook yesterday, you're paying less than that for the Air now, and you're getting, whether you want them or not, you're getting more features, including the T2 chip, in the same price as the.
I think that MacBook Air is that's the Mac I would get. That's a good price. I really think Apple has to always have $1,000 computer for education. I just think that's really important. So I'm glad to see that they did that. And one of the reasons I think that is I remember when I was on the board of trustees at the local high school here, they used to have a 1-to-1 program, and they would give every student one of those white MacBooks because they were $1,000 or maybe even $900. And as soon as Apple stopped selling $1,000 laptop, that school said, okay, we're going to Windows. And they left, and I doubt they'll ever go back. And it's that kind of thing that really, it's funny. You wouldn't think $100, does that make a difference? It does. Especially if you're buying 300 of them. It's a non-trivial expense. And
it's also a huge mental thing.
It's mental. You got to have a sub $1,000 laptop. You got to. So I'm glad they're doing that. Okay. Apple also dropped prices on high-end storage upgrades for the iMac, the iMac Pro, the MacBook Pro, the Mac Mini, and the Mac Pro. Although why people would buy storage from Apple, I guess if you're buying an all-in-one like an iMac, you kind of have to make the internal storage. But with Thunderbolt 3, you really don't need to spend. And are they still selling a Fusion drive? This graphic has to be wrong.
Yeah, that confused me as well.
Still, I think
let's look. That would be.
I think it replaced the crappy. Didn't it replace the crappy HD drive? The HDD.
Let's see what models. What I can do. Let's buy a iMac. What do you say?
I'd kind of rather have an HDD than a Fusion drive because people know how to fix HDDs, and they're easy to replace.
Fusion drive is bad engineering.
It's a brilliant idea that just never paid off for anybody.
Yeah. Let's see storage.
Exactly.
Yeah,
well
they still sell it. Ay. So the base 27-inch iMac comes with a terabyte Fusion drive, or if you're willing to spend $500 more, you get a terabyte SSD. That's the reason for the Fusion drive. That $500 difference. The problem is opening up an iMac is non-trivial. We've done it. You can do it. You have to have a giant suction cup for the screen, and you should watch the videos before you attempt it to just make sure you're willing to go through this nightmare. I would not. I wouldn't recommend
look for
a Fusion
videos
drive.
with the word "fail" in the title. That will give you. That'll make sure there's enough hair on your chest, male or female.
I broke the glass. I wouldn't get a Fusion drive no matter what. So maybe instead get a smaller SSD and use the Thunderbolt 3 port for an external drive. That's what I do with my iMac.
Which you want anyway, because it's nothing worse than a drive failing inside a sealed-up machine.
Yeah, exactly. Boy, I'm surprised. So anyway, the prices are lower, but still nowhere near market price for any of this stuff, I don't think.
You know, it's interesting because a lot of the people would say that Apple is making more expensive devices now, which is true, but they're also making more expensive devices. They are using the upper end of every single part. And a lot of other companies might do that in one model, but certainly don't do that in all models.
Right.
But like I bought a backup drive for my MacBook Pro, and I have a 2 terabyte drive inside, which was hella expensive. And I got the Samsung X5. And it's gone down now, but when it launched and I bought it, it was $1,500 just for that drive. And I think it was a similar part to what Apple was using. The bad thing, like it's not like what's the right way to say this? They just don't have cheaper options. If you're like, I don't care about peak performance storage, just give me an affordable, doesn't have to be top of the line SSD. They have absolutely nothing for you.
So just to give you a sense, so they're charging $500 to replace that Fusion drive with a terabyte SSD. A Samsung 860 EVO right now is $137 on Amazon. If you want to get the faster 860 Pro with VNAND, $279. It's still a little more than half what Apple is charging. It's just that you can't get into that iMac to put this thing in. But SSD prices have tumbled. And if you want an NVMe drive, an 860 EVO is $154 for a terabyte. And I've seen really good prices. Maybe so the Samsung 960 EVO NVMe, the M.2 drive internal, is $418. So maybe Apple isn't overcharging too much for that NVMe.
Well, I'm sure they're maintaining margin, but
I've seen some really good prices.
There's no like eMac version anymore.
Right. Yep.
Yeah,
SSD prices have tumbled. Yeah.
The big problem is that technology is not meant to be admired from one side of a shop window. That I like that the MacBook Air is still a $1,000 computer or an $1,100 computer. I really think that Apple would. I think it would be a great challenge for Apple to say we're always going to have a Mac that costs a MacBook that costs $900. And we don't think we have to absolutely destroy the trademark. We don't have to make something that's unreliable or cut down on features. We are going to use that as a design challenge for us to make sure that we stay sharp, to make sure that we can still always make an $899 MacBook every single year with the best components we can find for it. They take inspiration from the Raspberry Pi, where always been $34.99, and even as they add more ports, even as they make it faster, even as they more RAM, it's always $34.99, now you can get it for $59.99, but that's if you want a whopping 4 gigabytes of RAM. But that's a really interesting design challenge, and that's such a great case study what Raspberry Pi does, saying yes, people would love us to have like active cooling on it. People would love for us to have USB 3 like last year, the year before. We can't do it and maintain $34.99 price point, so we're not going to do it now, but that's in our roadmap. We're going to figure out a way to do it in the future.
As long as we're living in rumor land, Economic Daily News, a Chinese publication. I better translate this because I don't, unless some of you can read that. Let's see what Google has to say. No, that's not it either. I better go back to 9 to 5 Mac. This is the Economic Daily News suggests that the 16-inch MacBook Pro will enter mass production in the fourth quarter, and there'll be a new 10.2 iPad set to replace the one from last year. I guess that's not a surprise. We'd expect that. I don't know what their sources are. I don't even know.
It's replacing the 9.7-inch, so then we'll have a 10.2, a 10.5, and a 7.9.
Basically, they're squeezing bezels on the line, right? Is that?
Remember when you had one iPad and you liked it? It was 9.7 and that was it.
The 10.2 iPad rumor does seem a little bit off to me, and it's because of the way Apple just updated the iPad Mini and the iPod Touch. That makes me really think that I don't think this is happening. The iPad is supposed to kind of be the low cost sort of entry iPad, except for the Mini, of course. So they'd have to redesign the chassis in order to do that, and that makes it more expensive. And I think they're going to just upgrade the guts, but keep the chassis the same.
They're just going to ride that design all the way down, huh?
I do. If they want to keep it at that sort of low price point.
I mean, they have the Pros,
just like the iPod Touch. They're just going to.
But you can't make the Air and Mini look old, can you?
Make the Mini look old?
Yeah, like if you give the new design to the lowest end one, then what do the people who bought the Mini and the Air think? Like just a few months ago, it's like, well, why did they get the redesign and we didn't?
That's right.
They're more expensive.
That's the point, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly. Yes.
So, yeah, if you want.
You're right. They do have the 10.5 chassis design, so they could turn the 9.7-inch iPad into a 10.5-inch iPad. But that kind of goes along with that same idea of then they would just charge more for it. And if they're trying to keep the standard iPad at a cheaper price point, I don't think they're going to do anything big like change the design of it at all.
This kind of thinking, it shouldn't, because it's a business, but it kind of ruffles my feathers and the feathers of people who say, well, Apple should be a technology company first, not an economic entity first. And they should do what's the best new technology they can do, not say, it's the same problem I had with the iPod Touch, which is, we'll just take the old design and refresh it a little bit. That doesn't seem to be a technologist's way of thinking. That seems to be a chief operating officer's way of thinking.
They did that with the iPad Air, though. They gave that a complete redesign, and they're sort of positioning the iPad Air as the iPad for you, whereas the iPad is more of the entry-level version, and the iPad Pro is the pro-level version. And that's how I pictured in my head, is that Apple is always going to have one device that's sort of the lower-end one.
Right. That's
to get people in. That's to get your foot in the door. So that one is never going to be as good as the rest. It's never going to have the same processor chips or the same screen display or all the features. That one's always going to be a little bit off the mark, and then people will sort of start with that and feel if they love the iPad, then they'll feel I'm ready. I want to spend $1,200, $1,500 on my next iPad, and then they'll sort of upgrade to one of the fancier versions.
But increasingly, the iPad line is kind of bifurcated now because there's such a difference between the Pro and the non-Pro versions, and it doesn't feel like they want to bring the non-Pro versions up to the Pro version. So
it feels like they do it in steps. It's like they get Pencil, and then once everything gets Pencil, the new ones get a different differentiator, and then that differentiator spreads across the line, and then new ones get an even new different. Like they get to Face ID, so everything can have Touch ID, and everything can have Pencil, and it doesn't make every feature across the line, and then they'll get all Pencil, and it will be something else like the no bezels on the new one, or USB-C, and then the next generation will get USB-C, and the Pro will be on to something else.
Right.
And it seems like from iPhone to iPad to everything, that's the way they go. They make their money back on the high end for whatever R&D went into creating the new feature, and then they propagate it everywhere. And as they propagate it everywhere, they're busy investing in the next new big feature, which they pay off in the next new high-end design.
I guess I understand that. It's it's a business.
I do think that people are pretty excited to have a $300 iPad.
Yeah,
that's
There's
not
a lot to be
it's
said
not
for
black
that.
and white. It's not like 640 by 480 pixels. It really is a real iPad.
Right.
And I'm sure that everyone on this panel gets lots of questions from people who are trying to figure out what's the difference. I'm not an artist. What's the difference going to be for me between having an iPad Pro and having an iPad Air? And that's a very, very long and interesting question to answer, because for a lot of people, to get get what they want from the iPad experience, $300 is going to do them very, very well. And for $300, it's not a trivial amount of money for most people, but it is a low enough price point that you can afford to have a laptop and then have an iPad and buy this iPad only because you like it, you think that the apps are pretty nifty, and you don't intend to be using it 3 or 4 hours a day. It's the 3 or 4 hours a week that you intend to use it that are going to really, really make it earn its pay.
I guess also from the developer's point of view, what you really don't want to do is to bifurcate the line, to have the least expensive iPads so much slower than the top of the line iPads that it's two different things.
They have a bit of a Microsoft problem now too, is because when you the iPod Touch, and I didn't realize this, is huge in enterprise and retail.
Yeah.
And they have these machines that they slide into.
That. Yeah.
And if you change that, it doesn't fit in those. And
the sled design.
Apple traditionally wouldn't care.
Yeah.
But probably Apple has to care a little bit, which makes me sad. But I'm not in enterprise.
Yeah,
so
and I get that. I was schooled in that by a guy who actually works with these devices. He says, you don't understand how many people buy iPod Touches for retail or for inventory or for hospitals, and they all have sleds they have to fit in, so they can't change the product factor, the form factor. But the iPads, well, I don't know. I shouldn't say.
Most schools have their sleds and their trays, and I think they give them a little bit longer. And I think they realize that the iPad Pros are not going into those institutions, so they can be real aggressive with those.
Right.
And then again, it seems to me like Apple's got this whole new strategy where they're really pushing the limits on the high end, but they're kind of sort of making up for it by being a little bit slower and a little bit more price conscious on the low end. And certainly the iPad is leading there. I would love to see a new SE that did that with the phone, and new sort of really education friendly Macs that did that with the Mac lineup. I think then you can sort of justify the higher prices for the early adopters and the geeks and the people who just love the technology, and then have this whole wealth of more mainstream products for everybody else, and it makes a really good balance.
You got to honor their desire to keep a low price product so people can get into the product line. That's absolutely appropriate. But on the other hand, didn't they learn the lesson from the iPhone that the SE? That having cheap iPhones wasn't a good strategy for them. That really the market is high end.
Watch what you say, Leo.
Why? Why do you say that?
There are a small group of people just like me that absolutely love that SE form factor, and we are hoping it will come back. There's not a bunch of us, but we love it and want it.
But that's the form factor.
It's not about the price.
That's what I'm saying. It's the form factor, not the price.
But you would say then, though it is actually still quite pricey, the 10R is what Apple is considering the sort of entry-level price point, which I know it's pretty expensive, especially
I thought and maybe I'm just I thought the conventional wisdom was Apple has learned its lesson. There's no point in having a cheap iPhone.
Well, we say we want them cheap, and then we don't buy them. We're wonderfully mercurial.
Yeah.
But it sounds like it depends on the market now too, because smartphones are mature, and when you have mature markets, you do have to start segmenting those markets. And there's rumors that Apple's going to do a less expensive phone for China, maybe India as well. And that'll be different than the phone that they do, for the first time, different than the phone that they do in North America, that might still be 3 cameras and pushing the limits again. And it's gonna start to be real interesting, because Apple did really good business with just one iPhone for everyone, but that model may not last any longer.
Right. Let's take a break. Come back. We've got the 10th anniversary of the App Store. What happened to the iPhone's original plastic screen, and we can do a FaceTime demo where my eyes will eerily follow you everywhere in the room. It's coming up next. Andy Anako's here. He's in Starbucks having a fine iced tea. And
is Starbucks sponsoring this?
No.
They should, though.
They should. I wish I could get that Howard money.
Send him a bill.
Yeah. Also, of course, Lori Gill. She's also away from home. Somewhere in Dollywood. Yeah, she's in beautiful Branson, Missouri. And from Montreal, where the home of the last decent bagel, and Mr. Rene.
And coffee.
Richie, and fine coffee. Our show today brought to you by Rocket Mortgage, by Quicken Loans. I feel like an old friend is back in town. We love Rocket Mortgage. Really, finding a great house is a tough proposition. And finding a great mortgage might even be harder, but I can tell you Rocket Mortgage is there to help you understand the home buying process, so you can get the house you need at the price you want. It's not just a mortgage, it's your mortgage. Their team of mortgage experts are obsessed with finding a better way. That means their number one goal to make the home buying process smoother for you, and I can prove it because they've got award-winning client service and support every step of the way. Industry-leading online lending technology that's helped millions of Americans and millions of our listeners achieve the dream of home ownership. J.D. Power has ranked Quicken Loans highest in customer satisfaction once again. Now, this is for primary mortgage origination. It's now 9 years in a row. The highest in mortgage servicing, 5 years in a row for J.D. Power award information. Go to jdpower.com. Look at those awards. They're stacking up. When you work with them, you get more than just a loan because Rocket Mortgage is more than just a lender. Visit rocketmortgage.com/MacBreak. Take the first step toward the home of your dreams. Get started online today. rocketmortgage.com/MacBreak. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, and MLSConsumerAccess.org, number 3030. Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Push button, get mortgage. Thank you, Rocket Mortgage, for supporting MacBreak Weekly. Thank you for supporting MacBreak Weekly by using rocketmortgage.com/MacBreak. So the iPhone, last month celebrated its 12th anniversary. Was it really 2 years before they got an app store going?
No, see, it was the 10th anniversary last year, so I really don't understand what's happening right now.
Okay, thank you, Apple.
It was
confusing.
2008.
Yeah.
So 2018.
Okay, that makes more sense because I didn't think we were waiting 2 years for the App Store. All right. Okay. A nice piece, though, a 9 to 5 Mac, 10 years of the App Store, in which they compare, I think in a really nice way, how some of this stuff has evolved. This is a great one. This is the actual icon for the remote. And you can see how 3D it was in the earliest. This is July 2008 when it first emerged. Kind of modernized a little bit, but really this new flat look, it makes you appreciate, frankly, the simplicity of icons today. And not just icons, design in general. This is the Facebook app from 2008 compared to the Facebook app of today. And I just, that 3D pop buttons, is it just fashion, do you think, Andy, or is it?
Also, one guy wrote that app, that Facebook app, and now it's a whole team.
Yeah, maybe. But is it, I mean, to me, this flat looks so much better. But is it just like the same thing as just a car with fins it looks dated?
Well, remember that we were dealing with a much lower resolution screen. So if you wanted to be able to identify a button, you couldn't remember. And also that these flat designs we have today, they also have shadows, they also have highlights, but they're so subtle right now that because of the high resolution of the screen. So I do think that it reflected the design aesthetic of the time, but it was also a concession to what they had to do with the pixels that they had available at the time. I think that I'm glad that Apple seemed to bounce down and then back up again, making the interface way too flat for my taste with iOS 7, I think, and then gradually deciding that perhaps a splash of color would lighten people's elan over the course of a very busy and stressful day.
We may look back and say, oh, gradients, that was so 2020, because now everything has gradients, right? This is the 2013 Facebook app, which is basically the same as their app icon, and there is a very subtle gradient in the color there.
And remember that these design cues go all the way back at least to 1984, with the very first Macs. That everything had a shadow that came from the upper left-hand corner. Coincidentally, the Apple logo was at the desk accessory menu was in the upper left-hand corner, and that was again another cue for people to see some depth and see some reaction and liveliness in the user interface. So we definitely see things move forward. I think that between iOS and Material Design in Android, we're seeing two really great ideas just sort of let's say sniffing at each other and just sort of jogging next door to each other and taking cues from each other. This is all due to the depth of color that we have and the level of detail that we have today.
But it is kind of fun to go back in time. Apple has re-released Texas Hold'em which was,
right?
as I remember,
know when to hold them. Know when to
I
fold
seem to
them.
remember this was one of the very first apps, certainly I ever used. Did this come with the iPhone, or did you have to
I
download
think
it?
The
it
App
came
Store
on
it
the
launched?
iPod.
It came, it originally launched on
iPod.
the iPod Touch.
Oh my
Yeah.
God! Well, that was definitely a constrained screen. Let's show it on a massively beautiful. This is on an
And
iPad
I think it was
Pro.
bad for them to discontinue it because it meant they never tested any gaming APIs directly, and that's always the worst
Was this
thing.
the
for developers.
only game Apple ever released? No.
Does chess on the Mac count?
Chess
No, I
is
think they
still
licensed
there,
that,
isn't
didn't
it? All
Also,
right.
Alice. Remember that was an original
Alice
game for the
was
Mac.
so cool. Yeah. All right, I'm going to bet even though.
Impossible. I invented at least 12% of the profanities that are in the English language today trying to get one successful play of that game.
All right, I got a pair of kings. I'm going all the way, baby. This is it. Let's see
You're
if
all
I
in,
can.
Laporte.
I'm all in. I can go all in. Should I go all in, Whitney? Ray, I'm going to go all in against Whitney. I think she doesn't have it. Yep,
You're
she
going down,
folded.
Whitney.
I chased her. I am now the pot leader, ladies and gentlemen. I think it's about time to close it out. One of the things that's I hate to end the game. It has
you're winning.
multiplayer because I'm winning big time. One of the things that's
Know
fun
when to
though
fold.
is they have a lot of different casinos, but you got to earn your way up all the way up to Macau. So I've not seen these because each of them has a much higher table stakes. And let's resume this game because I'm doing so well. What you guys just talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah, I think this is reminding me of how much I enjoyed the Paperboy game that the Paperboy game that Tim Cook showed off at the briefing at the investor conference a few weeks ago. I love to see Apple express their creativity and express their level of playfulness and joy in a way that does not involve making keyboards that have only 0.52 millimeters of travel. I mean, when you task a group to say, you know how like we in that listserv that's company only, you were talking about this idea for a game. Tell you what, why don't you take the next 5 weeks off and take any 2 people you want and just make this game because we think it would be a cool thing for people to give away to people so that they have this wonderful bauble that they know has the same level of security and the same level of privacy and not wanting to steal your money as we idealize for the App Store, but also just to show off. Here's what we think of as if we were going to take on all the problems that you developers take on of creating a great game. This is the sort of game that we're talking about here. I would love to see them do that.
Fun Easter egg. The development team is in the app. You could no, it's not the development team. It's just a bunch of random poker players. Like you can be as weird as you want.
Is that the Unabomber up in the upper left?
Yeah, that's actually me. I like being the hoodie guy. So yeah, that way you can't see my tells. Anyway, it's fun. It's free. It's back, baby.
Leo, can you look at it from a different angle on the iPad? On the iPhone, you're actually sort of face to face instead of top down on it.
Oh yeah, because I don't know.
It's an interesting difference in design.
This is an iPhone app, so I think Oh yeah. Okay, so let me.
Oh, when you flip it.
Let's flip it.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, now.
Yeah, there you go.
Now
Okay.
I got the first person. I could see my scummy
And
dealer.
you get to see them move around and stuff. It's kind of fun.
Oh, hey, I didn't even know that. Man, you're the Texas Hold'em expert. All right, I'm going to bet
Why doesn't-
$100.
why
No,
isn't this
I didn't
AR?
realize that you can switch it to
Oh, look at
landscape
these
mode.
guys. Oh, this is much better than the. Yeah, they should make this VR.
Yeah.
Oh wow, it
Or
takes a
AR,
lot.
you could talk to them instead
Takes
of
a
Andy
lot
and
longer
Morgan.
to play. Let's see. I'm like one card from a straight here. Should I bet? Let's go. Let's bring up the stakes there. See if we can chase the rest of these clowns. He looks like a loser. Oh, he's gonna raise me. Oh, I
What
think
do you
that's
think
a
of
bluff.
that?
I think he's bluffing. I'll call him. Let's see what we got here. Let's see the turn. Oh, I think I just got a pair of aces. I'm gonna go all in, baby. See if that guy goes. Well, oh, he's matching. Oh, well, this is a big showdown. On the river, nothing. Pair of aces. Let's see. And thank you. I'll take all of that. Thank you very much. Eliminated. Wow. Thank you. You made this so much more fun. I could watch him lose.
That's a very talented dealer. Apparently, he can carom your next card off of the opposing wall and get it to appear in front of you.
It's a remarkable feat. This is the old game. Yeah, see, this is an iPhone game, and I forgot that because it's an iPhone game on my iPad, I could probably do what you just said. Thank you.
Yeah,
So
that was
much
pretty fun.
I'm saving that game. I'm doing all right there. Let's see, what else? Oh, the eye contact problem. Go ahead. Did you have something else, Laura, you wanted to talk about?
No, I was just going down memory lane.
The good old days. So the FaceTime, we talked about this a little bit, but earlier today, Micah Sargent and I, with great effort, managed to make a FaceTime call. And yes, in fact, it's a little creepy. His eyes do, even if he's looking at the picture, appear to be looking straight at the camera. I think that's a good thing. I'm glad.
It makes me doubt what is real, Leo. I don't know what's reality anymore. It's very disturbing to me on a core level.
That's my problem. That's my problem with it. It's a very obvious and a very, very natural feature to put in, but I think that it's kind of a binary thing. Either you trust that FaceTime is giving you a picture of the thing that the camera is looking at without emendations, or it is enhancing things to make sure that the person is looking at the camera, or saying that, oh, Andy didn't shave like this morning, so let's just sort of like tone that down so it looks like he shaved. It's when you're talking about a basic communication tool, I know that this isn't the most important thing in the world, but it just is, again, it's binary. Either the app is not changing anything to trick you into thinking that reality is not what it is, or you accept that, yes, maybe this person does not have kitty ears and cool sunglasses. I just think that I just
kitty ears and sunglasses. At least you know that's a
sleeping on the call
imposition.
Is it adding eyes?
I don't think if you actually, we didn't try that. Close your eyes, see what happens. I didn't try that. We should
just paints the eyes right on there. Like Micah was snoring. You didn't hear it.
Right on
the money we'll save on ping pong ball eyes and googly eyes for those boring meetings.
Yeah.
I would love it if it made me look 15% smarter, but at a certain point, it's just deception.
It's kind of the next thing, isn't it? Yeah.
It's interesting. It's not. It's very innocuous. It's not. It's not a danger. It's not like trying to beautify you. Remove your pimples or whatever. All it's doing is it's sort of shifting your eye focus so that it looks like you are actually making eye contact with the person that you're talking to. But at the same time, it's false. It's false. Visualizing. So it's kind of, I'm kind of on both sides of the spectrum of it, because I do, even when we have our conversations, if I'm not looking directly at the camera, I'm looking slightly above or slightly below the camera. And I try really hard when I'm the one conversing that I look directly at the camera. But most people will start to just kind of wander and look away, look down at the screen instead of looking at their camera. And that, the idea that it can fix that problem for me is great, because it makes a conversation feel more intimate, but it's false. So, when are we letting technology replace our own human natural movements and gestures? And when is that line okay to draw? Is it okay that it's just shifting my eye focus? And then in that case, just like you're saying, will it then someday be okay to make it look like I've shaved him when I haven't? Remove tattoos.
And Georgia said that she can't tell. Like she says, usually when I look right, I'm lying, and left, I'm remembering, and she can't tell now.
Yeah, those tells.
So it
are
might
gone.
be good for me, but bad for her. Yeah, all your you lose a lot of body language, because sometimes people are looking off, and all those things give us cues as to how we communicate with each other.
Well, here's the good news. You have to turn it on. First of all, you have to download the latest iOS 13 beta if you want to try this. That came out yesterday. And you have to turn it on in the settings, the FaceTime settings. I
have a big conundrum for you, though, Leo. Like, should you be the one to turn it on, or should I also be allowed to turn it off? Like, if I say I don't want FaceTime lying to me, because there was that whole superhuman male thing where, should they lot track you? Should you not be? Should I, what if I just never want FaceTime to lie to me?
Right.
Should I have that should I have that setting too? Or should I override your setting? I don't know. These are ethical questions.
Or even just if you a get info window that will just superimpose. By the way, here are features that the person who's sending you video is turning on. That these please mute any keyboard sounds. Please adjust the eye frequency. Please make sure that the mouth my resting face seems to be happy as opposed to exhausted and frustrated.
Actually, I would pay for mute keyboard sounds. That would be a really handy plugin.
But it's so complicated because like when they had the Google Duplex, some people were saying that you should absolutely have to disclose it and you should know that you're not talking to a human. But other people are like, what? Should I have to tell you if I'm using an artificial leg? Like if I'm mute and I'm using Google to speak for me, how is that your business? And none of these have easy answers. Yeah. So I wish that when companies would do these features, they would start off these conversations as well.
I like the info screen. I think that's a good idea. So you at least know what's being and as we get better and better at this, you're going to see a lot. I have a feeling Apple's just doing this to show off AR Plus, right? This is just, look what we can do. But man, if they could mute keyboard sounds. My mom always yells at me when I'm not looking at her while we're talking on FaceTime. She always yells at me.
Leo, you're playing Harry Potter, Leo.
Yeah, she knows exactly what I'm doing. And if it would mute keyboard sounds and make me look at her all the time, man, I'd pay for that.
I used to do a podcast with somebody, and I had to at some point say, "Look, it's okay if you're not going to be paying attention to me, but it kind of hurts my feelings when I can actually hear clackety clack 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 when I'm like giving my opinion on something. It's like
it's hurting my feelings.
I'm transcribing.
Putting the glass into the whiskey. You can hear him putting the ice into the whiskey while he's supposed to be podcasting.
It always subtly bothered me whenever we had Adam Curry on any of our shows. You could always hear. And it just, and then the next sentence would be, and it always bothered me just a little bit. And it's just me, I guess. But those tells,
Leo.
Yeah, maybe.
Pay attention,
Mr. Curry.
Cool, kids.
If you didn't bring enough for everyone, hey, here's something. Thanks to our chat room for filling me in on this. Mac Rumors says, I think they're being a little satirical when they say, good news. Both the new MacBook Air and the new MacBook Pro 13-inch entry-level model have the same third-generation butterfly keyboard design with updated material as in the new 2019 MacBook Pro.
The good news is that it's the third generation, not the second or first generation.
Oh, okay. Not good news.
It's the updated third generation.
Yeah, the third generation so far hasn't seen the same failure rates as the first and second generation.
Does it feel different when you type with it? I haven't tried it yet.
I haven't tried it.
Yeah.
The new third generation has that new material. So there's the third generation that has the membrane. Then there's the new Coke third generation that has the membrane and the new material in the domes. And the material in the domes does feel slightly different, and the membrane feels slightly different. So depending which version of which generation you're going through, Leo, there's different levels of different.
But should I run out and buy one just to find out? No.
It's a poke in the eye with a slightly blunter stick.
Which is better, though? If you're going to get poked in the eye, wouldn't you prefer a sharp stick? I'm just saying.
Just so you end it all?
Yeah, just get it over with. Don't all right, let's stop.
The MacBook Edifice
coming
to you in June.
Students, not only will you get your own Power Beats headphones from Apple, but you are going to get double the free trial period for Apple Music. So normally it's 3 months. Students will now get 6 months of trial time. Interesting.
Yeah, with Apple's student campaign right now, you're getting a pretty decent deal. $100 off your Mac.
Yeah.
$350 Beats headphones and extended trial on your Apple Music Plus. I think it's $5 a month for your subscription when you finally.
Oh, you even get a better deal in the subscription.
Not bad.
Nice.
Yeah.
It takes some of the sting out of going back to school, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. When they say back to school,
I'm going to go back to school.
I know. In the press release, it said college students, but can high school students take advantage of this? Does it have to be a college student?
I think you have to be able to buy through the Apple portal, right?
Okay.
Yeah. You have to be able to provide your student ID and you have to register with, I can't remember the name of it, but there's a program.
I remember that. Yeah.
And wasn't there something in the newsroom story about how 60% of college kids when we were using or wanted MacBooks now, which I thought was an alarming number given what it used to be.
Yeah, I'm sure that's true. Shop free.
Well, I mean, they want McLarens and they want Ferraris instead of the Toyotas. Toyota hand-me-downs they're getting from their parents.
Right.
They can't necessarily have it, and they don't necessarily need it either.
All right. So anyway, if you do qualify, whatever it is that takes, take advantage of it. That's a pretty good deal. Steve Wozniak deletes his Facebook account. I saw this everywhere.
It's old news, isn't it? Yeah. Didn't he do that a long time ago?
Yeah, April 2018. Yeah, I think he. So this is an April 2018 story, but for some reason it came up again. Like,
yeah,
he was talking about it again.
Reminding everyone that he's still.
Yeah, I still deleted it.
I forget who it was, but I saw a bunch of YouTube videos like why I'm deleting my social accounts, and then the same person why you shouldn't delete your social accounts. I think there's like trendy to be on both sides of the story.
Well, the new thing, there was this article about
they're
this.
also posting it on YouTube.
Yeah, the new thing is to apologize for something you did on YouTube on your Instagram or somewhere else, less popular. So like Logan Paul's apologizing, but he's not doing it on his main account where it might make him look wimpy. He does it like in a side account. So,
but don't those apology videos do mega business?
I know. I think the more drama, the better. So here's some good news. I know people have been concerned about Huawei and its future. The CEO of Huawei says he's going to start using Apple as a privacy role model. You know what? So am I, Ren Zhengfei. So am I.
Good to hear.
Good to hear. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'd rather he copy the privacy than, I forget, was it Xiaomi who or someone copied the Mimoji over the weekend?
You have to say the MacBook Pro. Oh, yeah, that was really funny, wasn't it?
But it was like it was so identical. You have to almost think it's like cute.
It says even Xiaomi staff can't distinguish its clone of Apple's Mimoji. This is from Apple Insider. After Xiaomi protested, of course, that its Mimoji looked nothing like Apple's Mimoji, the company's accidentally used Apple's advertising for its own promotion. Oh,
there's so many ways to do this. Like Wii's look totally different, and the Xbox ones look different. There's like so many. It's like emoji. There's so many different ways to make them.
Yeah, but Apple's is the right way.
Yeah, but if you hate them, you want something different. You don't want to hate Apple. Go buy a competing phone and be stuck with the same stuff you just left Apple for.
It's just it's just a very blatant example of what Chinese companies have done for years, frankly. Which is
I would just like to think that making use of their actual, like Apple's actual like videos, that's put that in a separate folder or something. If you want to pretend your hands are clean, that's not a good. It seems like that's a unforced error. That's an own goal. I think that you could have avoided that. I think that some people should be disciplined inside that company, not for having stolen material, but having done it so stupidly.
So I'm guessing Bill Gates has been playing Wizards Unite, the new Harry Potter game.
You might be right about that.
Because he says...
What is his Patronum?
Bill Gates, in an interview with, I guess, CNBC, says, I was like a minor wizard compared to Steve Jobs. He would be casting spells, and I would see people mesmerized. But because I'm a minor wizard... the spells don't work on me. Steve was he says, while it was really easy to imitate the bad parts of Steve, I have yet to meet any person in terms of picking talent, hyper-motivating that talent, who could match him. He brought some incredibly positive things along with that toughness. But he says he also was a wizard at casting spells that kept Apple from dying, to keep Apple employees motivated and working long hours. I think Bill cast a few spells. I think Bill's a little unnecessarily self-deprecating here.
You got people to pay for software. That's the biggest wizardry.
That was an amazing feat. We forget that before Bill Gates came along, people gave away software. You know?
He was just copied it.
Or copied it.
Exactly. He was famous back when he was just the prototypical, just college dropout guy who was doing computers with a friend of his. He had this sort of like bomb burst sort of like public letter memo about, hey, stop.
Right.
It's easy. I know it's easy for you to like make a copy of the punch tape of Microsoft Basic, but don't. It takes us a long time to do that, and it's wrong.
Right.
And a lot of people who were mostly hippies were saying, dude, information wants to be free.
I agree with the hippies. Maybe I'm a hippie too. Actually, let me correct myself. This was an interview he did with Fareed Zakaria on CNN that will be airing on Sunday. So that's a CNN interview, not a CNBC interview. I'll be watching. I think Bill I don't know what Bill's on some sort of tour, publicity tour these days. I don't know what.
Yeah, he's been saying a lot of interesting things that get picked up by everybody. So just like last week or the week before, he said he was talking about he was at some sort of investor conference and said his biggest mistake was not killing off Android.
Right.
And said, well, no spit, given that Windows, you had no mobile strategy and that you were basically had your total lunch eaten. Yeah.
If you haven't yet watched your VHS tape of Sunday's World Cup final, please plug your ears. And whatever you do, don't go to Apple's website. They celebrated the U.S. Women's World Cup victory over the Netherlands on Sunday with Mimoji.
Yep.
Is that Megan Rapinoe? I don't know. It's hard. It's hard. They're kind of generic Mimoji. It is no longer on the homepage. But it featured 3 Mimoji heads, red, white, and blue, seen cheering the nation's victory, complete with iMessage-style confetti effects and bouncing soccer balls. And then it says, job well done, and goes back to the Apple page. I missed it.
They did that
I wish
for
I'd seen
Canada
that.
with the Raptors. I guess that was the beta test.
They did it for the Raptors?
Oh.
Yeah,
Wait a minute.
For Apple's Canada site. Yeah.
What? Don't they know
Yeah,
the Warriors
they
are
have it.
Golden State's favorite sons?
I'm guessing it was when Eddie was on vacation.
What? Yeah, Eddie Q is a big Golden State Warriors fan. That's a good point.
Yeah, here's the Canadian.
Oh, you saved it?
Yeah.
Nice. It's got dinosaurs. And then you can get the iPhone 10 for $0 down.
Yeah, but I think because Canada's so small, they probably beta tested it with us and then did something way more extravagant with you.
Yeah, maybe. Boy, we ran through the stories pretty quick here. There's a 40-year-old Apple I original manual that's going up on auction. I love it because it has the original Isaac Newton Apple logo
Yeah.
on it, which is, truthfully, I'd buy it for that. And look at the font. Look at the typeface. It's very...
You can get that T-shirt. I don't know if they have it all the time, but they cycle in and out that T-shirt at Infinite Loop.
Ooh, I would buy that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got one of those. They're awesome.
Oh, do you have to go down there to get it?
Yeah, but you know people, Leo.
Oh, maybe somebody would send it to me. I'll pay him back. I think it was Jeff Wayne, Apple's secret third partner, who had designed that logo. Mind forever voyaging through strange something. Sir Isaac Newton. I love that logo. I would love to get that. Maybe you just have to buy the manual. There's the page. There's the page.
But I do wonder at what point did this logo drive Steve Jobs absolutely crazy?
Oh God, yes.
This was the guy that eventually decided that having a color logo was way too much, and we need to have a single color logo. That I wonder at what point he decided that no.
It is too busy.
No.
I think he just said it's too busy. It does. It looks like one of those labels you put in your book, Ex Libris.
Oh no, on a crate of fruit
Or a fruit crate.
label.
Yeah. Vulnerability in Zoom's Mac client could allow websites to turn on cameras without permissions. That's not good. This is discovered by security researcher Jonathan Lightshoot. It's a Zoom 0 day. So what do? Well, it also apparently impacts Ring Central because they do a white labeled Zoom system. So anything that's using Zoom, if you've ever, this is good. If you've ever installed the Zoom client on your Mac, then uninstalled it, you still have a local host web server on your machine that will happily reinstall the Zoom client for you without any user interaction on your behalf. You just have to go to a web page that asks for it. It's an instant reinstall. So, wow, this is a feature of Zoom. You can send people meeting links. When they open that link, the client opens, your camera comes on, and they can see everything you're doing. I love this meme. So this was disclosed in March 2019. Zoom confirmed the vulnerability, but apparently did not fix it. So once the 90-day disclosure period ran out June 24th, he said, I'm going to publicize it. So there you go. And I imagine there will be a fix. And this article, which appeared on Medium in the InfoSec write-ups, might have a fix. I don't know.
And some people on Twitter
think
were
it's
saying that
the-
if you uninstalled Zoom, it kept a process running that would just reinstall
Yeah,
Zoom.
localhost is still there, and if you get that link, it goes, oh yeah, that's the problem. You can't just uninstall Zoom to get rid of this.
I think the Medium post offers a couple of quick fixes that use Terminal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. So I've installed Zoom on my iMac to fix the auto join with video part of the vulnerability. Jonathan had told Zoom to immediately disable a meeting creator's ability to automatically enable a participant's video by default. They didn't really like that idea. So July 7th, there's been a regression in the fix implemented by Zoom, thus allowing this vulnerability to be exploited again. Oh, great. There's also potential DOS vulnerability. So
you think that Apple should punish them for this? I really think that this goes beyond the pale. That when you uninstall
not fixing
an app,
it,
that's an explicit request from the user. It doesn't say, "Oh, I'm sure it was a Thursday. We were all really tired. The user said some things it didn't mean. The app said some things it didn't mean. I'm sure that if we just keep reinstalling the software, he's going to remember how good this relationship is and how much we've invested in it. At least keep the group chat going and for the sake of the kids."
Yeah, he says the local host web server solution has got to be removed. And they have not to this day. He estimates, given Zoom's popularity, there are about 4 million Mac users with Zoom installed. So here's the patch the vulnerability yourself, which is to disable the ability for Zoom to turn on your webcam. Simple enough. And then, of course, if you're going to have a Zoom meeting, you'll have to re-enable it. He does offer a terminal command that will do the same thing. You don't have to use the UI. And then, apparently, the web server is running, so you might want to look for the process and kill it. Good Lord. That's just ridiculous. And then there's some other solutions as well. Wow. Yeah, I feel like maybe Apple might have something to say about that. That is not good behavior to turn on a web server that still runs after you uninstall the application. That's crazy.
Yeah.
You get to stay in the App Store, but your next build has to be written in either BASIC or Lisp.
Hey, Lisp is good. Don't knock Lisp, man. That's a fun language. I like Lisp.
Okay, APL then.
APL, now you're talking. Now
The
you're
amount of money
talking
they'll have to
real
spend
pain.
on the special keyboards alone will bankrupt them.
Actually, is that Jason Snell in our chat room? Or just somebody
Would not put it past him.
impersonating the Snell? I think they're talking about this. Anyway. Oh, no, this is Jay Snell tweeting. My hope is that someone at Zoom got a call from someone at Apple today indicating that the click to confirm Safari feature is intended to be used and that bypassing it is not cool. If Zoom wants to throw some of its competitors under the bus for doing the same thing, great. Yeah. So there should be a click to confirm. Thank you, Scooter X, for reposting that tweet. I agree. Our show today brought to you by ZipRecruiter. Hiring used to be hard. Multiple job sites, stacks of resumes, a confusing review process. Today, you're in luck. Hiring can be a lot easier, and you only have to go one place to get it done. ZipRecruiter.com/MacBreak. We've talked about how easy it is to post on 100-plus job boards just by posting once on ZipRecruiter. But there's a lot more. With their powerful matching technology, ZipRecruiter scans thousands of resumes to find people with the right experience and then invites them to apply to your job. As the applications come in, ZipRecruiter's smart technology analyzes each one, spotlights the top candidates so you don't miss a great match. And in fact, it works so well, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. That is pretty sweet. We've used it and had great results with ZipRecruiter. I love it because you don't get a jammed inbox or a lot of phone calls. They all go into the ZipRecruiter interface. All the resumes are nicely formatted, so it's very easy to see exactly who's offering what. You can even have screening questions, multiple choice or essay questions to help you narrow down the candidates. With ZipRecruiter, you will find the right candidate fast, and a lot of it has to do with your reaching out to everywhere candidates can be. But I love this feature where they send candidates your way. Right now, MacBreak Weekly listeners could get ZipRecruiter free, but you got to go to ZipRecruiter.com/MacBreak. It's a good thing to do anyway. Lets them know you heard it here. We really appreciate ZipRecruiter's support. They've been a great sponsor for so long for MacBreak Weekly. You help us out by going to ZipRecruiter.com/MacBreak, ZIPREC ZipRecruiter.com/MacBreak. You wouldn't spell it RROOTER. No. CRUITER. Thank you, French Francophones, for screwing up our language. ZipRecruiter.com/MacBreak. Do you pronounce recruit?
I don't think it's the same word. Is it?
I don't know. You would know.
Because English, I don't know.
I don't know.
It's hard to go back and forth when you see it or when you're in it, but it's hard to.
I know. Hey, I got to ask you, did you get a new camera? Because you look spectacular. You look marvelous.
I didn't. I don't know what's happening here.
Doesn't he look great?
You got a tan.
You got a tan? Yeah. Were you in the...
And I'm wearing my contacts, which I don't usually do.
Oh, he's not wearing glasses. There you go. I knew it was something.
Yeah.
I could see your eyes. Or is it that new
30%
FaceTime
dumber.
augmented reality feature? That's what it is. Renee,
It's Skype, Leo, so my eyes would be over here somewhere.
Yeah, I know. Why don't you kick us off with your pick of the week?
So I have two picks. One is unusual, I think, just in terms of why I picked it. But it's hard for me to find shoes because a long time ago I went to China a lot and I walked around China a lot and I ended up tearing ligaments in my foot, plantar fascia. And when I got back, they prescribed me these inserts that you put in your shoes that keep your shoe arched, but it was really uncomfortable. And then a guy I knew who'd done a ton of physiotherapy training goes, no, that's all garbage. Well, all it does is make your foot more and more dependent on it. And the problem will shift to your knee, then it'll shift to your hip. Throw those out and just get the most minimal shoe that you can possibly get.
What?
Take the insoles out and just walk and build up all those muscles.
Go barefoot.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's Montreal, so there's quite a few times when I can't go barefoot.
But barefoot-ish.
Go barefoot.
Yeah,
and I can't do the Vibrams; they just don't fit. But so what I did, but they're so hard to find. We just don't have a lot of shoes in the store. So recently, I needed new shoes, and I just went to Nike.com, and I sorted. I also have very wide feet, so I just sorted by wide and ultra wide. I found exactly the shoes I wanted. I ordered them. They arrived. I took the insoles out, put my feet in. And I've been walking on them, ever since. And it's great. And it's just, sorry?
So it's like you're barefoot, though? You really feel the ground?
The Nike Freeze, yeah. I mean, they're not Vibrams. If you really want to go hardcore, you can get those
crazy toe shoes.
Vibram.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the more you can walk better, and I can't explain the whole thing, but if you walk badly, injuries tend to spread and you build up malignant neural pathways and your body just your body you have to feed your body motion the way you feed it food. Your body it feeds on motion. So when you get out and you do a bunch of different things and you do it as naturally as possible and you're not walking sideways or moving your legs in weird ways because the shoes are deforming you and they're pushing you forward, it clears up a lot of things that you thought were chronic problems, or at least in my case it did. So I've been doing it for a while and I'm super happy with it.
I am going to customize some Nike Freeze for me right now.
It's awesome.
Which ones did you get? The Flyknit? The Max Janoski?
I got the Zoom Pegasus. And what I thought was so weird about these is they don't have real laces. They have a back that unzips. And then you just put them on like slippers.
Oh, hallelujah.
And then you just zip them back up.
Brilliant.
And you Velcro them. And the Velcro closes. And then you're just off and going.
I no longer want to tie my shoes. That's for sure. Very nice. What are you laughing
Let's
at?
revert back to Velcro.
What are you laughing at? Lori Gill.
It's always back
when
to
you're
Velcro.
a little kid.
Your pick of the week,
When you're
Lori.
a little kid, you're learning how to tie your shoes.
Oh, they're horrible.
So you have to wear Velcro. And then when you become an old man, you just give me some
I want
Velcro.
that kid Velcro.
Old man
stuff.
yelling at shoelaces.
That's why I wear loafers all the time, because I'm a loafer. Ms. Lori Gill, your pick of the week.
Yeah, well, so Mophie just came out with a new charging device, which they make a lot of, and they're always very good.
We love the Mophies.
This one is called the Power Station Hub.
Yeah.
And it is Qi enabled, and it plugs into any wall port, and it has 2 USB-A and 1 USB-C port, and it is wireless. So it has the Qi support, which you see in that first picture there, but you can also plug in any iPhone or even an iPad or a computer and let it charge. And you can either plug it into the wall and use it as a multi-port.
It's like a wall wart that also charges. It's got a battery.
Yes.
Oh, that's so cool.
It has its own separate battery. So it's like super versatile. And I've got one, and I actually used it when I went camping this past weekend. And it ended up being great because it was one of those situations where I could have plugged it into a wall, but the nearest plug was in a different room. So, by the way, camping this weekend was at a cabin, not in a tent. So that's why I'm saying a wall. But so when I wanted to just charge up my phone real quick, I just grabbed it and charged it instead of having to take my phone into a room where there was a wall plug. Nice. So it's a nice little versatile thing.
Oh, we love Mophie. Now it's not a huge battery; it's 6,000 milliamp hours, but that's still that's enough to charge your iPhone for sure.
Yep. Yeah.
That's really cool.
And because it plugs into a wall, it's not really intended to be like the all day charger.
That you carry
it's kind
around.
of like
you
plug it in when you need it, and then when you're in a place where you can actually, you plug it in to use it on the regular, and then when you're out and about, you bring it with you so that if you need a kind of a re-up, you've got something you can do with it.
So it's roughly the size of, say, the MacBook Pro charging block, thereabouts.
Yeah, it's a slightly bigger, but almost that. Yeah. In fact, I also have a plug bug, which is, I'm sure you know what that is. It's got the similar sort of idea of multi-ports.
Right.
And that sits right on top of the charging the power brick for the MacBook Pro. It's almost exactly the same size as the MacBook Pro power brick with a plug bug on top of it.
Right. Nice. Mophie, the power station hub. See, I'm always looking for simple things I can put in my backpack and have with me at all times, and multi-function.
That one fits in your back pocket.
Yeah, nice.
A little bulky, but it does fit.
Yeah, with my butt, it doesn't matter. Andy Ihnatko, I'll leave the rest to your imagination. Andy Ihnatko, your pick of the week.
I was going to just make a joke and say my pick of the week is this lovely green iced peach tea from Starbucks, and the Google Starbucks Wi-Fi that got me through this show after
it worked well.
After my home office and library number 1 and library number 2 aced out. Somebody on Twitter though said, "Gee, are you that cheap or that poor that you gotta always use like free Wi-Fi?" So my actual pick of the week
is hate Twitter. I freaking hate Twitter. No. It was funny. It was funny. I've never had a bad time on Twitter really. Okay. But it did inspire me to share a very, very brief tip here. That the reason why I keep doing shows from my local library instead of my office after my office internet got fixed was that I found myself that I was tricking myself into having a better time doing podcasts, because usually it's the podcasting desk is the opposite of the desk I do my writing at, and I would be I'd start my workday at 9:30 or 10. I'd be working until about maybe 10 minutes before the show starts, maybe even up until the moment the work starts, and so I just sort of shift from one desk to another. I found that I really, really enjoyed the idea that there's a time in the morning where I have to stop what I'm doing. And if I haven't shaved, I have to shave because I'm going out. If I haven't put on shoes, I got to put on shoes. I got to be properly dressed. I have to make sure my bag is packed. And then I have a lovely little like walk for about a mile, a little bit more, through like ponds and seeing critters and stuff like that. And then I have to unpack in the conference room and set up my gear. And that's like a good 45-minute pause between the very, very last thing I was doing in the morning, which is writing or editing something or doing my email, and sitting down in my mind and doing this podcast. And my mind is just in a very, very much better state, be that I put a breather between the end of one task and the beginning of another. And so this was today. Okay, things went wrong, but this is why you're often going to see me doing shows from the local library, assuming their internet comes back on. So that's my tip. Sometimes if you have the sort of day or your sort of work where you have to keep juggling between multiple things, neurologists keep saying that the brain is not really good at multitasking. We just trick ourselves into thinking it's multitasking. It's sort of like a Mac OS System 7. It's not really multitasking, and we all know how well that version of Mac OS actually worked. So my advice is if you have to manage lots of things at the same time, even if you just get up at your desk, take a walk, go get a glass of water, go get a cup of coffee, go outside, sniff at a flower, and then come back inside. The fact that you've put some space, some cognitive space between the last task that you were doing and this new task you have to move on to, I really do think, or in my case, I really do think that it's led to me having a healthier brain
and I hope that I'm doing better as a commentator and as a podcaster, being able to again sort of have these little breathers between tasks. So that's my pick of the week.
Andy's getting out of the house, and we're all happy.
Yes. and look, my skin tone has turned from like a greenish blue to almost a grayish glow with all the sunlight.
I was going to say you're not translucent anymore.
It's a whiter shade of pale. Let's just put it that way. Yeah. I wanted to talk about this. We were talking about it on iOS today, and you mentioning Anker reminded me that Anker is the first company I know of to do commercial production of gallium nitride technology devices. Gallium nitride is a newer material that is being used to replace silicon in electronics devices. Eventually, it'll be in semiconductors. It'll be in chips. Right now, though, it's being used for power. And Anker put out this new little device. This is actually really cool. It's about the size of an iPhone wall wart. It's got a USB-C PD power. Power delivery port on it. But this is the PowerPort Atom PD1, but it's 30 watts in something the size of a little tiny plug. They also make, yeah, this is because of gallium arsenide. They also make the PowerPort Atom PD2, which is 60 watts, and so enough to charge 2 devices. It's got 2 ports on it, or a MacBook Pro even. These are about 15% smaller than stock chargers because of gallium nitride. It's a really interesting technology, and I'm very excited by the idea that we're going to see more and more of these devices used in wireless charging, fast charging, and eventually even in faster microprocessors. But if you want to kind of get a little piece of the future, and something that's actually quite cute and not very expensive, take a look at the PowerPort Atom. It's the PD1. We interviewed the guy from, what was it, Electric Power Conversion, EPC, about gallium nitride technology more than a year ago on triangulation. I was very excited about this. And finally, Anker has released its GaN technology charger. And it lives up to the promise. It also runs cooler. It doesn't get as hot. There's a lot of benefits to gallium nitride technology. That's that for this episode of MacBreak Weekly. A little short episode today. Apple's got to get to work and give us more stuff to talk about. Renee Ritchie probably glad to be through a little early because you got up so early for that press release this morning. Apple's a West Coast company. Why would they release something that early? I don't understand.
I guess because the East Coast markets are going to open, or who knows?
Who knows? Yeah.
Who knows, Leo? But I managed to get a video up already, so I'm
nice
happy.
Job. Will I find that at imore.com/vector?
You would, or youtube.com/vector. I managed to get the URL. It was Vector Show before, and through Harry Potter-esque magic, I managed to get /vector.
You are a spellcaster.
Accio Vector.
The best. Accio
I still can't get my Wikipedia page updated, but I can get the URL on YouTube fixed.
Not allowed. You got to just tell the people.
They did fix my country of birth. That was finally fixed. It was wrong for like 3 years. Citation needed, but now
South Africa.
It was, yeah. They had Canada listed because I guess I apologize so much. They thought it was natural.
So anybody who wants to use this show as a citation, that is okay with Wikipedia.
Yes.
So now you've heard it here. Where were you born, Renee Ritchie?
Johannesburg, South Africa.
Thank you. That's the rest. That's the citation right there. Thanks, Renee. Always a pleasure. Thanks to you, Andy Anako, and thanks to the Starbucks just next to the Providence Starbucks for giving us a little Andy hit and some caffeine too. You'll find Andy WGBH Boston. When are you going to be on this week?
Friday at 1 p.m. And the great thing is that we're doing that at the Boston Public Library studio, so it's open to the public. So if you're going to be in Boston, drop by. The Boston Public Library is a wonderful place to visit under any circumstances. It will be slightly dampened by watching me gesture wildly as I speak, but it should be a lot of fun. Go to the Newsroom Cafe. It'll be very, very easy to find.
Very nice. And Lori Gill, we thank you for being here. She's managing editor at iMore, so she's got a lot of responsibility. I really appreciate your taking the time to join us.
I'm just waiting for my Wikipedia page.
You don't have a Wikipedia page?
No.
Okay.
I'm not cool enough yet.
Okay, I think she qualifies. I think everybody needs to help out.
Yeah.
By the way, this is a good tip. Scooter X mentioned this in the chat room. Both Scooter and X and I subscribe to the Apple PR bot on Telegram. And so we both got messages at 6:30 in the morning Do you do that too, Lori and Renee? Is that how you get your Apple PR?
I used to have shenanigans for that, and now they just made web alerts. So if you enable them in Safari, you'll get a web alert as soon as the page is updated.
Nice. I still love Telegram as my messenger, my favorite messenger. It's not necessarily super encrypted because they do their own encryption thing, but those bots are fantastic. And yeah, I've had the Apple PR bot forever. So that's how I keep up with Apple's up to. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time. MacBreak Weekly is every Tuesday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1700 UTC. You can watch or listen live at our live stream, twit.tv/live, or ask your Amazon Echo, say, hey, play Twit Live. And usually, not always, but usually it'll start playing the live stream right away. You can also get downloaded versions of everything we do at our website, twit.tv/mbw. You can also ask Echo, play the MacBreak Weekly podcast. It'll give you the latest episode. But if you want earlier episodes, they're all available on the website. Or subscribe. Subscribe, my friends. Every podcast application knows about MacBreak Weekly. If you go to twit.tv/subscribe, we'll give you the fill-in on how to do it. But it's pretty simple. If you search for MacBreak Weekly, you should be able to subscribe. And that way you'll get the show the minute it's available on a Tuesday afternoon. Thanks for being here. Now, I'm sorry to say, it's time to get back to work because break time is over. Bye-bye.